You have been told your whole life that the only way to prove your worth is to defend it, that every challenge is a summons, every provocation a battle that must be fought in the open. You have learned to marshal facts, deploy clever comebacks, and exhaust yourself in the name of being right. And yet, the more you engage, the less in control you feel. The more words you use, the less authority you command. This book is for those who are ready to step off that treadmill. It is for leaders, professionals, and anyone who is tired of the noise, the endless cycles of email disputes, meetings that devolve into posturing, or the internal debates that rob you of sleep and focus. You have witnessed how argument rarely leads to resolution. You have seen how status leaks out in every overreaction, every unnecessary explanation, every attempt to win a battle that should never have been joined. Stoic Dominance, Why You Should Never Argue, is not about passivity. It is not a guide to silent submission or a plea for disengagement. Instead, it offers you a blueprint for a different kind of strength, the unshakable, quiet force that dominates not by volume but by presence, not by endless rebuttal but by decisive action. What follows is a field manual for those who would rather build than debate, who would rather lead than be drawn into the dramas of others. Here, you will learn why arguing surrenders your authority before you even speak. You will be handed the silent strategies that allow you to command a room, contain your own emotions, and refuse the traps of hostile frames. You will master the art of saying less, controlling tempo, and wielding ambiguity as a shield rather than a veil. Each chapter builds upon the last, moving from the internal work of governing your physiology and emotions to the outward skills of concise communication, controlled timing, and graceful exits. You will discover why your attention is the ultimate currency, why silence creates a vacuum that others fill with their own insecurities, and why the greatest power is exercised not in the heat of debate, but in the discipline of withdrawal. This book does not promise you the last word. It promises you the last act. As you read, expect your old habits to protest. Expect resistance from the parts of you that still believe your value is up for debate. But if you are willing to walk the path of restraint, to claim the authority that comes from what you do rather than what you say, then you will find in these pages a set of tools as practical as they are transformative. You do not need to raise your voice to raise your status. You do not need to explain yourself to everyone who demands it. You need only to master yourself, and through that mastery, master the room. Welcome to the discipline of never arguing. Welcome to Stoic Dominance. Chapter 1, Silent Advantage. The most dangerous lie you have ever been told is that you need to defend your reputation. You have been conditioned to believe that when someone challenges you, questions your competence, or baits you with a false accusation, the strong move is to fight back. You think that by dismantling their argument, point by point, you are displaying dominance. You believe that silence is submission and that having the last word is the ultimate victory. This belief is why you are tired. It is why you are losing hours of your life to circular email threads that resolve nothing. It is why you lie awake at night, replaying conversations and inventing perfect comebacks for moments that have already passed. The reality is the exact opposite. Every time you react to a provocation, you are not displaying power. You are leaking it. You are handing over the keys to your emotional state and letting someone else drive. You are engaging in a low-status game where the prize is merely the exhaustion of your own attention. You are reading this because you are done with the noise. You want to reclaim your time, your focus, and your standing. You are in the right place. This book is not about how to win arguments. It is about how to make arguments obsolete. We are going to dismantle the habit of reactivity and replace it with a system of quiet gravity. You will move from the frantic pace of a debater to the deliberate pace of a decider. The high cost of engagement. The moment you accept an invitation to argue, you have already lost the most important battle, the battle for the frame. Framing is the invisible architecture of a conversation. It dictates the rules, the boundaries, and the definitions of success. When a colleague sends you a frantic, accusatory message and you rush to explain yourself, you have accepted their frame. You have implicitly agreed that their emergency is your emergency, that their accusation merits a defense, and that they are the judge you must satisfy. This is frame surrender. It is the primary cause of your stress. By stepping into their reality, you validate it. You give their chaotic emotions oxygen. Observers, whether they are your team members or your children, subconsciously pick up on this dynamic. They do not see a leader passionately defending the truth. They see a reactive individual dancing to someone else's tune. There is a concept in behavioral science called reactance theory. It suggests that when you push against someone, their instinct is not to listen, but to push back harder to regain their sense of freedom. Arguments do not change minds, they harden positions. When you engage in a verbal war, you are not fixing the problem, you are cementing it. Beyond the psychological cost, there is the tactical cost of status leakage. In the animal kingdom and in the boardroom, high status is correlated with low reactivity. This is known as status quiescence. The alpha does not bark at every snapping twig. The CEO does not get into a shouting match with a junior vendor. When you respond to every slight with a paragraph of text, you are signaling insecurity. You are telling the world that your internal stability is fragile enough to be shaken by a few words. The leverage of silence. If engagement is a leak, silence is a seal. When you stop arguing, you create a vacuum. Human beings are uncomfortable with undefined spaces. When you do not respond with the expected defense, the other person's imagination begins to do the work for you. They project intelligence, calculation, and confidence onto your silence. This is the principle of information asymmetry. In any conflict, the person talking the most is revealing the most. They are showing you their cards, their insecurities, their pressure points, their lack of emotional control. By remaining silent or speaking minimally, you remain unreadable. You become a black box. This makes you dangerous in a negotiation and authoritative in leadership. Consider the compounding effect of this approach over time. If you continue to argue, you build a reputation as someone who can be baited. People learn that if they want your attention, all they have to do is poke you. You become a resource that can be mined for drama. However, if you adopt the silent advantage, you build a reputation for impenetrability. You become the person who cannot be rattled. This is not about being passive. It is about hoarding your energy for execution. While your competitors or detractors are burning their willpower on debates, you are directing yours toward tangible outcomes. You are trading the cheap dopamine of a gotcha moment for the enduring asset of authority. The architecture of control. To achieve this state of dominance, we must look at the difference between winners and losers in the game of influence. Losers are obsessed with being understood. They believe that if they just explain their perspective clearly enough, the other person will capitulate. They chase every provocation. They defend their identity in public spaces where they have everything to lose and nothing to gain. Winners operate differently. They are inspired by models like Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor who viewed composure as a duty, not a personality trait. They emulate Abraham Lincoln, who was famous for writing hot letters, furious, detailed responses to his critics, and then burning them. He processed the emotion, but he never gave the enemy the satisfaction of receiving it. Winners understand that attention is a finite currency. They choose their arenas. They do not fight in the mud because they know that even if they win, they still get dirty. They prioritize deeds over words. They know that a decision implemented is worth infinitely more than a decision debated. This book will teach you to operate with that same level of strategic discipline. We will move through a specific sequence because you cannot master the room until you master yourself. You cannot execute a clean exit from a toxic conversation if your pulse is racing and your adrenaline is spiking. The path forward. The system we will build together is linear. It begins with the internal and moves to the external. First, we will address the biological reality of conflict. You cannot think strategically when your nervous system is in fight or flight mode. We will explore methods to stabilize your physiology on demand, ensuring that your face and voice never betray you. Next, we will tackle the verbal traps. You will learn to spot a hostile frame instantly and refuse it without being rude. You will learn to acknowledge an emotion without accepting the premise attached to it. We will then compress your communication. You will learn the power of minimal speech. You will discover why saying less actually increases the weight of your words. We will couple this with timing control, teaching you how to use pauses and delays to let the other person's energy dissipate before you deliver a verdict. As we advance, we will look at your physical presence through the calm body protocol and the sophisticated art of strategic ambiguity. You will learn how to be clear about your destination while keeping your methods guarded, preventing others from sabotaging your plans before they are in motion. Finally, we will cover exit moves and the philosophy of deeds first. You will learn how to end conversations that have no upside and how to let your results do the talking for you. What you can expect. This is not a theoretical treatise. It is a field manual. By the time you finish this book, you should be able to cut your visible arguments by half within a single week. You will stop writing paragraphs of defense. You will replace rebuttals with one-sentence holding patterns. You will learn to exit circular threads in under 90 seconds. Imagine a week where you do not feel the lingering hangover of a morning dispute. Imagine a meeting where someone tries to undermine you, and instead of getting flustered, you feel a cold, calm detachment. You see their attack not as a threat, but as a clumsy maneuver that you can step around. You will begin to see a shift in how others treat you. When you stop providing the friction of an argument, people stop pushing. They start to pre-edit their words before they approach you. They realize that the old keys to your attention no longer fit the lock. You will earn a reputation for being calm under fire, a trait that is rare and highly valued in every hierarchy. The goal is to move you from decision paralysis to decision velocity. When you stop fearing the backlash of an argument, you can act. You can announce scope, set deadlines, and move forward. You will stop asking for permission to lead and simply start leading. The first step is internal. You might be thinking that this sounds impossible given your current environment. You might be surrounded by people who thrive on conflict, or you might feel that your specific situation requires constant explanation. This is the resistance speaking. It is the part of you that is addicted to the struggle. We are going to break that addiction, but we cannot do it by simply willing ourselves to be quiet. Willpower is a finite resource, and in the heat of the moment, it usually fails. We need a protocol. We need a way to intercept the signal between the provocation and your reaction. The reason you argue is not because you want to. It is because your body has already decided to fight before your brain has a chance to intervene. Your heart rate climbs, your pupils dilate, and your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for logic and strategy, goes offline. You cannot use the advanced tactics of frame refusal or strategic ambiguity if you are chemically compromised. You cannot be a stoic dominant force if you are physically trembling with rage or anxiety. Before we can control the room, we must gain control of the mechanism that drives your voice. There is a switch inside you that flips the moment you feel attacked. Most people don't even know it exists until it's too late. In the next chapter, we are going to find that switch. We are going to learn how to override your evolutionary programming in 90 seconds or less. We are going to turn off the adrenaline and turn on the authority. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to Grow to the Top and activate notifications to receive more self-improvement tips that will supercharge your growth. And make sure to give this video a thumbs up and share it with your friends. It really helps the channel grow. Thank you for your support. Chapter 2, Emotional Containment. Your phone vibrates. You glance at the screen and see the name. Immediately, your stomach tightens. It is an email from a colleague who has been undermining your project for months, or perhaps a message from a family member who knows exactly which button to push. Before you have even unlocked the screen, your heart rate has spiked. Your jaw is set. Your breathing has become shallow and rapid. You are not reading the message with your eyes. You are reading it with your nervous system. And your nervous system has already decided that you are in a fight. This is the critical moment. Most people believe the argument happens when they type out a reply and hit send. They are wrong. The argument happens right now, in the split second where your biology hijacks your psychology. If you react now, you have already lost. You might win the verbal exchange later. You might have better facts, and you might be logically superior, but you have surrendered your autonomy. You are operating on adrenaline, which means you are reacting to a threat rather than executing a strategy. To dominate your environment, you must first dominate your own physiology. This is not about suppressing your emotions or pretending to be a robot. It is about a specific form of governance called emotional containment. It is the ability to feel the surge of adrenaline, acknowledge it, and then refuse to let it drive the car. The physiology of authority. When you are triggered, your body enters a state of high arousal. Your vision narrows, literally and metaphorically. You lose access to peripheral data and nuance. Your brain prioritizes speed over accuracy and defense over collaboration. In this state, you cannot be strategic. You can only be reactive. This reactivity is a massive signal of low status. In any social hierarchy, the individual who is most easily agitated is viewed as the least powerful. Think of the difference between a yapping dog and a resting lion. The lion possesses what behavioral scientists call status quiescence. It does not need to react to every stimulus because it is secure in its position. Its low reactivity is a display of strength. When you fly off the handle or rush to defend yourself, you are broadcasting insecurity. You are telling the room that your internal state is fragile and easily disrupted by external forces. Conversely, when you remain physically contained in the face of provocation, you project a heavy, undeniable gravity. You become the anchor in the room while everyone else is drifting in the storm. But you cannot fake this. You cannot just act calm while your insides are screaming. You have to actually shift your biological state. You need a mechanism to flush the adrenaline before you speak. The 90-second override. There is a window of time that determines your fate in any conflict. It is roughly 90 seconds long. Neuroanatomists suggest that the chemical surge of an emotion, the rush of heat, the tension, only lasts about 90 seconds in the bloodstream, provided you do not feed it with more thoughts. If you can ride out that minute and a half without adding fuel to the fire, the physiological tide recedes and your rational brain comes back online. We call this the containment loop. It is a 3-step process designed to halt the spiral. The first step is the pause. This is not a passive wait, it is an active break. When the stimulus hits, the rude comment, the accusatory email, you must physically stop. Do not type, do not speak, do not even formulate a sentence in your head. Instead, focus entirely on your breath. You need to inhale for a count of 4, and more importantly, exhale for a count of 6 or 8. The extended exhale is the biological trigger for the parasympathetic nervous system. It tells your brain that you are safe. It forces your heart rate to decelerate. The second step is the label. Once you have taken 3 to 5 of these breaths, you need to name what is happening. In your mind, simply say the word: anger, fear, ego, frustration. This sounds rudimentary, but it is a powerful cognitive hack. When you label an emotion, you move activity from the amygdala, the emotional center, to the prefrontal cortex, the executive center. You are no longer in the emotion, you are observing it. You have created a gap between the feeler and the feeling. The third step is the choice. Now that you have oxygenated your brain and identified the intruder, you ask yourself a single question: what is the smallest sufficient response? Note that the goal is not the best response or the most crushing response. It is the smallest response that moves the situation forward. Often, the answer is to do nothing for now. Governing the vessel. You cannot think your way into a new way of acting, but you can act your way into a new way of thinking. This is the principle of embodied cognition. Your mind takes cues from your body. If you are hunched over, teeth gritted, and breathing shallowly, your brain interprets this as a crisis and generates crisis-level thoughts. To achieve containment, you must reverse the flow. You fix the body to fix the brain. Start with your posture. When you feel the heat rising, stand up if you can. If you are sitting, sit back. Lean back 10 degrees. This subtle movement signals to your nervous system that you are not in attack mode. It breaks the lean-in reflex of aggression. Next, unlock your jaw. Tension accumulates in the masseter muscles when we feel threatened. Drop your shoulders away from your ears. These physical adjustments are not just for show. They interrupt the feedback loop of anger. Finally, control your voice. Under stress, the vocal cords tighten, causing your pitch to rise and your tempo to accelerate. This high, fast speech pattern screams panic. You must consciously drop your pitch and slow your cadence. Speak as if you have all the time in the world. A low, slow voice is the sound of authority. It forces others to lean in and listen. It signals that you are not afraid of the silence between your words. The myth of venting. There is a pervasive myth in our culture that you need to let it out. We are told that holding in anger is toxic and that venting is a healthy release. In the context of strategic dominance, this is dangerously incorrect. Venting does not dissipate anger. It rehearses it. When you rant to a coworker about an annoying client, or when you type out a furious draft just to get it off your chest, you are reinforcing the neural pathways of outrage. You are making yourself angrier. You are also cementing your position. Once you have voiced a grievance aloud, your ego becomes attached to it. You have now performed your anger for an audience, which makes it harder to back down or view the situation objectively later. Furthermore, venting leaks status. It shows that you have lost control. It invites spectators into your drama. The Stoic approach is not suppression, where you bottle up emotion until you explode. It is processing. It is the internal alchemy of turning heat into light. You feel the emotion, you acknowledge its presence, but you deny it the right to speak for you. The Lincoln Protocol. We can look to history for the ultimate example of this discipline. Abraham Lincoln led a nation through its most fractured and bloody period. He was surrounded by incompetence, insubordination, and relentless criticism. He was frequently furious. One famous incident involved General George Meade. After the Battle of Gettysburg, Meade had the opportunity to pursue Robert E. Lee's retreating army and potentially end the Civil War right then and there. Meade hesitated. He let the enemy escape. Lincoln was apoplectic. He knew the war would now drag on for years, costing thousands more lives. In a white-hot rage, Lincoln sat down and wrote a letter to Meade. It was a masterpiece of criticism. He detailed exactly how Meade had failed his country and his president. It was the kind of letter that would have destroyed Meade's career and relieved Lincoln's immense frustration. But Lincoln never sent it. He wrote it to bleed the heat. He poured his anger onto the paper so he wouldn't pour it onto his general. He placed the letter in a drawer where it was found after his death, labeled simply, "To Gen Meade, never sent." This is the protocol. When you are burning to reply, write the draft. Go all out. Be vicious, be petty, be brilliant. Then delete it, or lock it away. Do not put it in the email draft folder where a slip of the finger could ruin you. Put it in a blank document. The act of writing externalizes the emotion, allowing you to look at it and say, "I see you." Then, once the 90 seconds have passed and the adrenaline has faded, you can write the real response, the one that actually serves your goals. Tactical micro-adjustments. As you practice this loop, there are small physical hacks that can assist you. First, watch your sentence endings. In English, a rising intonation at the end of a sentence sounds like a question. It seeks validation. "I think we should wait" sounds weak. A falling intonation sounds like a directive. "I think we should wait." Practice dropping your voice at the period. It adds a subconscious weight to your statement. Second, depersonalize the conflict. When you are in the containment loop, shift your language from "you" to "this." Instead of thinking, "Why are you doing this to me?" think, "What does this situation require?" This linguistic shift moves you from a victim mindset to a mechanic mindset. You are no longer under attack. You are just fixing a broken part. Third, use your eyes. When we are threatened, we lock onto the target. If you are reading a hostile email, look away from the screen. Look out the window. Widen your peripheral vision. This signals your brain that the predator is not right in front of you. It breaks the trance of the screen. Fourth, use water as a pacing mechanism. Keep a glass of water nearby. When a question comes that spikes your pulse, take a slow sip before answering. This forces you to breathe through your nose. It buys you 5 seconds of silence. It shows the room that you are operating on your own time, not theirs. The trap of the robot. There is a danger here. If you overcorrect, you can come across as cold, robotic, or dismissive. Silence without warmth can be read as arrogance. A delay without an explanation can be read as dodging. The goal of emotional containment is not to become a statue. It is to become a filter. You want to filter out the noise of the emotion while keeping the signal of the message. If you need to delay a response to let your adrenaline settle, do not just ghost the person. That creates anxiety and more conflict. Instead, use a holding statement. I've received this. I need to give it proper thought. I will get back to you by 3 p.m. This is professional, it is clear, and it buys you the time you need to regain your footing. If you are speaking live and you feel yourself shutting down, add a single phrase of empathy to bridge the gap. I can see this is important to you. You don't have to agree with them. You don't have to give them what they want. You just have to acknowledge their humanity. This small lubricant prevents your containment from being interpreted as hostility. The unflappable identity. If you commit to this practice, the results will compound quickly. At first, you will simply stop making unforced errors. You will stop sending those late-night emails that you regret the next morning. You will stop snapping at your team in moments of stress. But over time, something deeper happens. You begin to change the temperature of the rooms you enter. People crave stability. When they see that you cannot be baited, that you do not fluctuate wildly with the circumstances, they will naturally gravitate toward you. You become the eye of the storm. Your reputation will shift from someone who is passionate or opinionated to someone who is unflappable. This is a massive competitive advantage. In a negotiation, the person who needs the deal the least always wins. In an argument, the person who needs the last word the least always controls the frame. By mastering emotional containment, you are building the foundation for everything else in this book. You are reclaiming your nervous system from the chaos of the world. You are deciding that your peace is too expensive to be bought with a cheap provocation. But being calm is only the first step. Once you have steadied your hands and slowed your heart, you are left with a new problem. The other person is still there. They are still pushing. They are still trying to trap you in their version of reality, using false choices and loaded questions to corner you. Silence will protect your energy, but it won't change the direction of the conversation. For that, you need a weapon that can dismantle their logic without you ever having to raise your voice. You need to learn how to reject the game they are trying to play and invite them into a game where you have already written the rules. Chapter 3, Frame Refusal. Imagine you are in a meeting and someone looks at you with feigned concern and asks, "Are we going to miss the deadline because you're too focused on perfection or because you didn't resource this correctly?" Freeze that moment. Feel the texture of it. Your brain instantly scrambles to find the answer. You feel a desperate urge to explain that you aren't obsessed with perfection, or to prove that the resourcing was actually adequate, but the scope changed. You want to defend your competence. You want to correct the record. If you answer that question, either option A or option B, you have already lost. You have lost because you walked into a trap known as a false binary. The question presupposes that the failure is already a fact and that the only variable left to discuss is which of your inadequacies caused it. By choosing an answer, you validate the premise. You accept their reality. You step into a cage they built, lock the door behind you, and then try to negotiate for your freedom. This is how smart people lose arguments before they even open their mouths. They think the battle is about facts, logic, or truth. It is not. The battle is about the frame. The frame is the invisible boundary that surrounds every interaction. It dictates the rules of the game. It defines what is important, what is irrelevant, and who holds the authority. In the scenario above, your colleague set a frame of failure analysis, casting themselves as the judge and you as the defendant. If you start presenting evidence, you have accepted the role of defendant. No matter how good your evidence is, the best you can hope for is a not guilty verdict. You cannot win, you can only survive. To achieve Stoic dominance, you must stop surviving other people's frames and start imposing your own. You must learn the art of frame refusal. This is not about ignoring the issue or being obstinate. It is about recognizing that you have the sovereign right to reject the terms of engagement and propose new ones. It is the difference between playing a game you cannot win and changing the game entirely. The architecture of the trap. Why do we fall for this? Why is our instinct to answer the question as asked? It stems from a deep-seated social conditioning. From the time we are children in a classroom, we are trained that when an authority figure asks a question, the good behavior is to answer it directly. We are taught that responsiveness equals respect. We carry this good student syndrome into adulthood. When someone hits us with urgency, blame, or moral bait, our nervous system interprets it as a command that must be obeyed. Arguments thrive on this compliance. They rely on you accepting the emotional sandbox the other person has created. If they are angry, the frame is anger. If they are rushing, the frame is urgency. If they are blaming, the frame is guilt. When you accept their frame, you are also accepting their pacing and their definitions. You are letting them decide what gets attention. If a client sends a furious email about a minor font change, and you spend 3 hours writing a dissertation on typography, you have allowed their emotion to dictate your resource allocation. You have given a trivial issue the weight of a crisis because they framed it as a crisis. This is a surrender of agency. You are letting the external world drive your internal engine. Frame refusal is the act of taking the wheel back. It is the realization that just because the phone rings, you do not have to pick it up. Just because an accusation is made, you do not have to stand trial. The pivot: acknowledge, reframe, redirect. So how do you escape the cage without starting a war? If you simply ignore the question, you look evasive or cowardly. If you fight the premise aggressively, that's a stupid question. You look defensive and emotional. The solution lies in a maneuver that neutralizes the trap while maintaining your dignity. We call this the ARR move: acknowledge, reframe, redirect. It starts with the acknowledge phase. This is where you disarm the emotional bomb. Remember, people argue because they want to be heard. If you deny their emotion, they will ramp it up, so you give them a micro yes. You validate their state without validating their facts. In our opening example, the trap about perfectionism versus resourcing, you do not jump to defense. You pause. You look them in the eye. You say, "I hear that you are worried about the timeline." Notice what you did there. You did not agree that you are missing the deadline. You did not agree that you are a perfectionist. You simply agreed that they are worried. You validated the human element. This reduces their reactance, the psychological urge to push back. You have met them with a soft surface, not a stone wall. Now, you execute the reframe. This is the pivot. You take the energy they threw at you and channel it into a definition that serves you. You reject their binary, perfection versus resources, and substitute your own reality. You continue. The decision we need to make right now is not about past resourcing, but about the scope for the final sprint. You have just moved the entire meeting. You took the frame from blame assignment and moved it to scope management. You took the role of defendant and swapped it for the role of leader. You did it without raising your voice or denying their feelings. You simply redefined what the conversation is about. Finally, you redirect. A frame is only as good as the action it produces. You must anchor this new reality with a concrete next step. We will proceed with the core features for Friday's release and log the rest for V2. The trap is dismantled. The accuser is left holding their false binary, which is now irrelevant. You have not evaded the issue, you have elevated it. The power of the and. One of the most subtle yet powerful tools in frame refusal is the replacement of the word but with the word and. But is a negation. It tells the other person, I heard what you said and I am throwing it away to tell you what I think. It is a verbal eraser. It invites combat. And is a bridge. It allows two realities to exist simultaneously, which gives you the leverage to steer the outcome. I understand you are frustrated, and the protocol requires us to wait for legal approval. I see why this feels urgent, and we are going to stick to the original quality assurance schedule to ensure safety. This phrasing creates a micro yes. It allows the other person to feel right about their feelings while you remain right about the process. It acknowledges the concern without consenting to the debate. It is a way of saying, you are allowed to be upset, but we are still going to do it my way. Closing the loop. Refusing a frame is not enough if you leave the door open for them to drag you back in. You must seal the exit. This is where many people fail. They successfully reframe the conversation, but then they linger. They wait for approval. They ask, does that make sense? Or is that okay? Asking for validation hands the frame right back to them. It invites them to judge your ruling. To maintain Stoic dominance, you must use closed-loop decisions. This means you state the decision, the implementation plan, and the next checkpoint. You create a container for the issue that has a lid on it. The decision is to stick to the current scope. The team will execute this by Thursday. We will review the outcome on Tuesday morning. Period. There is no question mark at the end. There is no, if that works for you. You have defined the reality, set the timeline, and established the next time you are willing to discuss it. This aligns with the practice of Marcus Aurelius. When faced with betrayals or insults, he did not engage in long debates about the fairness of the attacks. He reframed them. He viewed them as tests of his own nature or as the inevitable behavior of ignorant people. He acknowledged the event, reframed it as a duty to remain composed, and redirected his energy back to his work. He closed the loop. In a modern context, this is the executive who receives a frantic essay-length email about a minor problem and replies, "Noted. We will discuss this in the monthly review. Proceed with the current plan." The sender wants a debate. The executive gives them a decision. The frame holds. The myth of rudeness. You might be reading this and thinking, this sounds cold. Isn't it rude to ignore their question? Won't people think I'm dodging the issue? This is the fear that keeps you trapped. We equate politeness with submission. We think that to be a nice person, we must allow others to trample our boundaries. Respectful refusal is not rude, it is clarifying. It preserves dignity for everyone. When you refuse to engage in a blame game, you are actually saving the other person from their own worst instincts. You are preventing a toxic spiral that would damage the relationship. You are being the adult in the room. Silence or redirection does not imply guilt, it implies focus. It signals that you are so clear on your objective that you will not be distracted by side quests. When you pair your refusal with a clear path forward, the redirect, you are not dodging, you are leading. You are showing them the way out of the emotional swamp they wandered into. The shift in gravity. When you start practicing frame refusal, the dynamic of your relationships will change. At first, people might be confused. They are used to you playing the role of the defendant. They are used to pushing the guilt button and watching you dance. When you stop dancing, they will push harder. They will accuse you of not listening. They will try to escalate the emotion to force you back into the old frame. This is where you must hold the line. You simply repeat the ARR move. You acknowledge their escalation. I see this is upsetting you. You reframe again, and we still need to focus on the solution, not the history. And you redirect. Let's look at the data. Eventually, the energy shifts. Observers, your team, your boss, your family, will subconsciously align with the strongest frame. They do not align with the loudest voice. They align with the most stable reality. If you remain grounded in your definition of the problem while the other person spirals, you become the gravity center of the room. You will notice that meetings become shorter. Email threads that used to go on for days now end after 2 exchanges. You are no longer exhausted because you are no longer carrying the emotional baggage of others. You have handed it back to them. The danger of over-explanation. There is, however, a critical vulnerability in this strategy. It is the moment right after you set the frame. You have acknowledged, reframed, and redirected. You have taken control. The room is silent. The tension is high. In that silence, you will feel a terrible urge to fill the void. You will want to explain why you reframed it. You will want to justify your decision. You will want to soften the blow with more words. Do not do it. The moment you start over-explaining your frame, you weaken it. You turn your decree back into a debate. You give them surface area to attack. Every extra word you speak is a hook they can grab onto to pull you back into the cage. You have learned how to contain your body. You have learned how to refuse their frame. Now, you must learn how to wield the most potent instrument of authority, brevity. Your frame is fragile. It is made of glass. If you pile too many words on top of it, it will shatter. You need to learn how to strip your language down to the bone, how to say exactly enough to move the world, and not a syllable more. In the next chapter, we are going to look at why your vocabulary is your biggest liability and how to turn it into your sharpest weapon. We will explore the discipline that makes your refusals absolute and your decisions final. It is time to learn the art of saying almost nothing so that you can control everything. Chapter 4. Minimal Speech. Every word you speak is a liability. We are raised to believe that communication is about connection, that the more we share, the more we are understood. We think that if we just explain our reasoning in enough detail, if we provide enough context, the other person will see the logic and agree with us. We treat words like bridges. But in a conflict, words are not bridges, they are surface area. Think of your position as a fortress. Every sentence you add to your argument is another gate you have cut into the walls. Every adjective is a window. Every because is a back door. When you send a 3-paragraph email explaining why a project is late, you are not providing clarity. You are providing ammunition. You are giving your detractors 3 paragraphs of material to dissect, misinterpret, and use against you. This is the trap of verbosity. You talk to prove you are right, but by talking, you prove you are insecure. You are trying to persuade, but you are actually signaling that your authority is up for negotiation. The most dominant move you can make is to deny them the material they need to fight you. You must learn to starve the fire. This brings us to the discipline of minimal speech. This is not about being silent. It is about being surgical. It is the art of compressing your will into a package so small and so dense that it cannot be twisted, misquoted, or ignored. The liability of length. Why do we overtalk? It usually stems from a fear of being misunderstood. We feel that a naked no is too harsh, so we wrap it in layers of justification. We say, I can't do that right now because I have 3 other reports due and my team is understaffed, but maybe next week if things clear up. Look at what you just did. You handed the other person 3 different angles of attack. They can now argue about the priority of your reports. They can argue about your staffing levels. They can pin you down on the maybe next week hope. You wanted to say no, but you actually opened a negotiation on 3 fronts. This is a failure of verbal ammunition control. In a high-stakes environment, clarity scales, but verbosity invites combat. The longer your message, the lower the comprehension, and the higher the resistance. There is a concept in psychology called processing fluency. The human brain prefers things that are easy to process. Short, concrete statements feel true. Long, winding explanations feel suspicious. When you over-explain, you trigger the other person's lie detector. They wonder, if this decision is so obvious, why are they working so hard to sell it to me? Minimal speech reverses this dynamic. It relies on the principle that confidence requires no embellishment. When you strip your language down to the studs, you engage in a costly signal of restraint. You are showing that you are so sure of your position that you do not need to dress it up. The one-breath heuristic. To operationalize this, we use a simple physical constraint, the one-breath rule. If you cannot deliver your message in a single inhalation and exhalation, it is too long. It contains too much drag. It is likely carrying emotional baggage that does not belong there. A one-breath message has a specific architecture. It consists of 3 rigid components: the decision, the reason, and the next step. The decision is binary. It is what is happening. The reason is a single clause. It is the why, stripped of all apology. The next step is the anchor. It tells the world what happens now. Let's look at the difference. The old, you might say, "I'm really sorry, but I don't think we can ship the beta on Friday because the QA team found some bugs that are pretty critical, and I'm worried that if we push it, the customers will be upset, so I was thinking we should probably delay until Tuesday to be safe." That is a plea. It is weak. It invites a counterargument. The bugs aren't that bad, or customers expect bugs in beta. The new you, using the one-breath rule, says, "We are holding the release until Tuesday, decision, because the critical bugs compromise security, reason. We will review the patch on Monday morning, next step." Feel the difference in weight. There is no air in that sentence for an argument to breathe. You have stated the reality, the cause, and the future. You have not asked for permission. You have informed them of the weather. This brevity forces you to be precise. You cannot hide fuzzy thinking in a short sentence. If you don't know exactly what you want, you can't write it short. Minimal speech forces you to clarify your own mind before you try to influence anyone else's. The conditional yes and no. One of the most effective tools in the minimalist arsenal is the conditional response. Often, arguments spiral because we give a hard no that triggers an ego defense, or a soft yes that we later regret. The conditional response protects your boundaries while keeping the conversation moving. It is a simple if-then statement. Yes, if the budget is approved by Friday. No, until the safety data is verified. This structure removes the personal element. You are not the one saying no. The condition is saying no. You are merely the messenger of reality. If they want to argue, they have to argue with the condition, the budget or the data, not with you. This is particularly powerful when someone tries to trap you with a false urgency. They demand an answer now. You give them a conditional answer. If you need an answer this second, it is no. If you can wait until 5 p.m., I can review the data. You have compressed the negotiation into a simple logic gate. Paper beats theater. There is a tactical reason to prefer written communication over live debate when the stakes are high. In a live room, the person with the loudest voice, the quickest wit, or the most aggressive body language often wins the optics war. It is theater. But in writing, theater dies. On paper or on a screen, logic and brevity win. Minimal speech thrives in text. When you are in a heated exchange, your instinct will be to jump on a call to clear things up. Resist this. Calls are where frames get muddy. Calls are where emotional contagion happens. Instead, move to the written word. Writing forces you to edit. It allows you to look at your draft and see the emotional leakage. It creates a receipt. Receipts beat recollection. Months from now, nobody will remember the nuance of your passionate speech in the conference room, but they will be able to search the email archive and find the one-sentence directive you sent. That sentence becomes the historical record. By keeping it short, you ensure it is the only record. The myths of silence. You will feel resistance to this. You will worry that by saying less, you look less intelligent. We have been conditioned to believe that smart people talk fast and use big words. We think that silence implies ignorance. The opposite is true in leadership. The junior employee rushes to fill the silence because they are anxious to prove their worth. The senior leader lets the silence sit because they are comfortable with their power. Silence is not empty, it is heavy. It creates a vacuum that others feel compelled to fill. This is information asymmetry in action. When you stop talking, the other person starts revealing. They will over-explain, they will negotiate against themselves, and they will leak their true motivations. There is also the myth that more detail prevents confusion. We tell ourselves that if we just add one more paragraph explaining the context, everyone will be aligned. In reality, excess detail seeds side quests. If you give 5 reasons for a decision, you have given the other person 5 separate topics to debate. If you give 1 reason, you have focused the entire universe on a single point. The 50% cut protocol. How do you actually do this? You are staring at a draft email that is 3 paragraphs long. You feel like every word is necessary. You need to run the 50% cut protocol. This is a ruthless editing pass that you must perform on every high-stakes message before you hit send. First, write your draft exactly as you feel it. Let the emotion out. Include the justifications, the apologies, and the context. Now cut half the words. Start by deleting every adverb. Really, very, just, actually. These are weed words. They weaken your stock. Next, remove the I think, I feel, and I believe preambles. If you are saying it, we know you think it. State the fact, not your relationship to the fact. Then, look for the warm-up sentences. The I hope this email finds you well, or the I wanted to reach out to discuss. Delete them. Start with the noun and the verb. Finally, look at your reasons. If you have 3, pick the strongest one and delete the other 2. 1 strong pillar holds the roof better than 3 weak ones. Read the remaining text out loud. It should sound slightly too short. It should feel blunt. That is the feeling of clarity. The warmth wrapper. There is a danger here. If you are too clinical, you can come across as robotic or aggressive. You want to be dominant, not sociopathic. The solution is not to add more fluff to the message, but to wrap the message in a layer of professional warmth. We call this the micro-yes add-on. You can be incredibly brief on the business logic while still signaling that you are a human being. You do this by acknowledging the context in the opening or closing, but keeping the core message rigid. Thanks for the push on this. We are sticking to the original scope. I appreciate the context you sent. The decision stands. This prevents the jerk label without compromising the frame. You are separating the person from the problem. You are soft on the human, hard on the issue. Avoiding the ambiguity trap. Minimalism is not about being vague. We'll see is minimal, but it is weak. It creates anxiety. Your brevity must be paired with specificity. This is where many people fail. They confuse short with cryptic. Fix this is a bad minimal command. It leads to questions. Rewrite the introduction by 3 p.m. is a good minimal command. It is short, but it has high resolution. Always include a metric or a timestamp. Ambiguity breeds follow-up questions, and follow-up questions force you to speak more, which defeats the purpose. Your goal is to send a message that requires no reply other than done. The standard you set. When you begin to speak and write this way, you change the metabolic rate of your team. Long, winding email threads die when they hit your inbox. You become a dead end for drama. At first, people might be jarred by your brevity. They might ask if you are angry. You can simply smile and say, no, just focused. Over time, they will adapt. They will realize that when you speak, it is a decision, not a suggestion. They will stop skimming your emails and start reading them because they know every word is load-bearing. You will find that your legal and PR risks drop. You cannot be misquoted if you didn't say it. You cannot be trapped in a contradiction if you didn't offer a sprawling explanation. You are building a fortress of few words. You are becoming legible to your allies and opaque to your enemies. But there is a missing dimension. You have learned to control your body, refuse the frame, and compress your speech. You have the what and the how. However, the most powerful variable in any interaction is not what you say, or even how you say it. It is when you say it. You can have the perfect one-breath refusal, but if you deliver it too quickly, it looks like a knee-jerk reaction. If you deliver it too late, it looks like fear. There is a hidden rhythm to dominance, a way of manipulating the clock to make other people wait for you, to make them sweat in the silence while you hold the keys. In the next chapter, we are going to explore the weapon that costs nothing but buys you everything. We are going to learn how to weaponize the pause. Chapter 5, Timing Control. There is a sound that governs your life. It might be the default chime of your email client, the vibration of your phone against the desk, or the sharp intake of breath from a colleague across the conference table. When that sound hits your ears, your training kicks in. You have been conditioned like a Pavlovian dog to respond immediately. You believe that speed is a metric of competence. You think that if you answer the email in 2 minutes, you are efficient. You think that if you snap back a retort in a meeting before the other person has finished their sentence, you are sharp. You are wrong. In the realm of dominance, speed is often a signal of submission. When you rush to answer, you are telling the other person that their time is more valuable than yours. You are demonstrating that their demand for attention is the most important thing in your universe right now. You are not acting, you are reacting. The most powerful variable in any interaction is not what you say. It's not even how you say it. It is when you say it. This chapter is about breaking the addiction to immediacy. It is about understanding that time is a lever, and the person who holds the handle of that lever controls the weight of the conversation. We are going to explore the discipline of timing control, moving you from a frantic participant who tries to keep up to a tempo setter who forces the world to wait. The hierarchy of the pause. Picture a king and a messenger. The messenger runs into the throne room, breathless, speaking fast, desperate to deliver the news. The king sits. He does not move. He does not rush to hear it. He waits until the messenger is finished, takes a breath, and then, only when he is ready, he speaks. This is an extreme image, but the dynamic exists in every modern office. High status is correlated with unhurried behavior. This is the principle of status quiescence applied to the clock. The person at the top of the hierarchy has the luxury of time. The person at the bottom is chasing the clock. When you respond instantly to a provocation, you are signaling that you are threatened. Your nervous system has detected a danger, a challenge to your ego, a risk to your project, and it is firing a rapid response to neutralize it. The other person sees this speed and subconsciously registers it as fear. To invert this dynamic, you must master the live pause. This is the most uncomfortable tactic you will learn, and also the most effective. It happens in face-to-face or camera-to-camera interactions. Someone asks you a loaded question. Why is this project over budget? Or, did you really think this strategy would work? Your instinct is to jump in with an explanation before the last syllable has left their mouth. You want to block the blow. Instead, do nothing. Literally nothing. Keep your eyes on them. Close your mouth. Inhale once through your nose. Exhale slowly, taking twice as long as the inhale. This will take about 3 to 5 seconds. In a social setting, 5 seconds of silence feels like an eternity. It feels heavy. The air in the room will seem to thicken. The other person will wonder if you didn't hear them, or if you are angry, or if they said something stupid. That tension is your friend. By enduring that silence, you are draining the heat out of the interaction. You are letting their adrenaline spike and fall, while yours remains flat. When you finally speak, after that deliberate pause, your voice will sound louder, even if you whisper. You have established that you answer on your timeline, not theirs. The asynchronous power move. In the digital world, you have even more leverage because you can manufacture time. Yet, most people throw this advantage away. They treat email and chat apps like live conversations. They see the typing bubbles and feel the pressure to type back instantly. You must stop treating asynchronous communication as a live event. Unless the building is literally on fire, nothing requires a response in 30 seconds. When you receive a complex or heated message, you should implement the short async window. This is a delay of 1 to 4 hours. It is enough time for you to cool down, but not so long that you look negligent. However, you cannot just ghost people. Silence without a frame looks like incompetence or avoidance. You must couple your delay with a receipt. You reply, "Noted, I am reviewing this and will revert by 3 p.m. This is a power move. First, you have acknowledged receipt, so they cannot accuse you of ignoring them. Second, you have set a boundary. You have told them exactly when they will get their answer. For the next 3 hours, you are free. They are the ones waiting. You have taken the ball out of your court and put it in theirs, but you have frozen the game clock. This technique transforms you from a reactive employee who jumps at every ping into a strategic operator who processes information in batches. You are training your team and your stakeholders to expect a rhythm that you define. The truth serum of silence. There is a hidden benefit to delaying your response, whether live or digital. It exploits a flaw in human psychology. Most people cannot handle silence. When you use the live pause, or when you let a question hang in the air, the other person will often start talking again to fill the void. They will assume you aren't buying what they are selling. They will assume their argument wasn't strong enough. So they will bid against themselves. I mean, I know the budget is tight, but I guess we could probably look at the timeline again. I'm not saying it's entirely your fault, just that this is information asymmetry in action. By simply waiting, you allow them to reveal their insecurities, their fallback positions, and the true flexibility of their demands. They are negotiating with your silence and losing. If you had jumped in immediately with a defense, you would have been the one revealing information. You would have been the one explaining and justifying. By waiting, you turn the table. You become the collector of intelligence rather than the source of it. The decision window. For higher stakes issues, strategic pivots, personnel issues, major scope changes, you need to expand the time frame even further. This is where you deploy the decision window. Arguments often spiral because everyone wants a resolution right now. The tension of the conflict is unpleasant, and people want to resolve it to feel better. They force a decision just to end the meeting. You must resist this. You must separate the debate from the decision. When the heat is high, you say, "We have the inputs. I will make the decision on Friday at 10 a.m. You have just created a 24 to 72-hour buffer. This does two things. First, it kills the immediate argument. There is no point in yelling at you now because the verdict isn't coming until Friday. The meeting can end. Second, it gives you time to think without the chemical fog of adrenaline. You are also signaling that the decision is yours to make. You are not asking for consensus. You are announcing a timeline for a ruling. This is the behavior of a leader, not a debater. The hold and hit protocol. Implementing this requires practice because your impulse control is likely eroded by years of instant messaging. You need a drill to rebuild it. We call this the hold then hit exercise. The next time you receive a message that triggers an emotional spike, a criticism, a demand, a snarky comment, you are going to write your reply immediately. Type it out. Put all your anger, your logic, and your gotcha points into the draft. Then set a timer for 15 minutes. Walk away from the screen. Do not send it. When the timer goes off, come back and look at the draft. You will almost certainly find that it is too long, too defensive, and too emotional. Now, apply the minimal speech tools from the previous chapter. Cut 50% of the words. Remove the adjectives. Add a deadline or a next step. Then send it. That 15-minute gap is the difference between a regret and a result. It breaks the stimulus-response loop. It allows your prefrontal cortex to catch up with your amygdala. The trap of the ghost. There is a danger here that we must address. Some people confuse timing control with avoidance. They think that if they just don't answer, they are being dominant. This is false. Ignoring people indefinitely is not a strategy. It is cowardice. It breeds distrust. If you simply stop answering emails, people will not respect you. They will work around you. They will escalate to your boss. They will label you as a bottleneck. Timing control is about defined delays. It is about the difference between "I'm ignoring you and I will answer you on Tuesday." Always pair your silence with a timestamp. If you are going to pause in a meeting, maintain eye contact so they know you are processing, not zoning out. If you're going to delay an email, send the holding note. The goal is to be predictable in your unpredictability. People should know that you will answer, but they should never expect you to answer instantly. The meeting cadence reset. You can apply this principle to the structure of your meetings as well. In most meetings, the leader speaks first, framing the issue, and then opens the floor for debate. This often leads to a free-for-all where the leader has to defend their opening statement against the group. Flip the timing. Let others speak first. Let the arguments happen while you listen. Collect the data. Watch the room. Then speak last. The person who speaks last holds the most authority. They have the benefit of hearing all positions. They can synthesize the information and deliver the final verdict. When you speak last, you are not arguing, you are concluding. End the meeting with a summary of the action, the owner, and the date. Do not reopen the floor for final thoughts. The time for thoughts is over. The time for action has begun. The outcome of patience. As you begin to master the clock, you will notice a shift in the atmosphere around you. The frantic energy that usually permeates high-stakes environments will seem to dissipate when you enter the room. Fire drills will fade. Because you do not react to false urgency, people will stop bringing it to you. They will learn that running into your office with their hair on fire does not result in you grabbing a bucket of water. It results in you calmly asking them to put it in an email for review tomorrow. Your team will start to mirror your tempo. They will realize that it is safe to think before they speak. The quality of decisions will rise because they are being made in the cool light of reflection rather than the heat of the moment. You will reclaim hours of your week. By batching your responses and refusing to engage in real-time text wars, you eliminate the switching costs that destroy productivity. You will find that you have time to do the deep work that actually advances your career. The missing piece. You now have the tools to control the verbal and temporal battlefield. You know how to refuse the frame, how to speak with brevity, and how to wield the pause. But there is a leak we haven't plugged yet. You can wait 5 seconds before speaking. You can say the perfect 10 words. You can set the perfect deadline. But what is your body doing during those 5 seconds? If your voice is steady, but your foot is tapping under the table, you are leaking. If your email is firm, but you are hunched over your keyboard with your shoulders touching your ears while you type it, you are reinforcing an internal state of panic. The room reads your biology before it reads your biography. They see your tension before they hear your strategy. To be truly dominant, your physical presence must match your tactical discipline. You need to learn how to hack your own nervous system so that you don't just act calm, but actually become the physiological anchor in the room. In the next chapter, we are going to look at the specific mechanical adjustments you must make to your posture, your gaze, and your breath to ensure that your body isn't telling a different story than your words. Chapter 6, Calm Body. The moment you walk into a room, a conversation has already begun. You haven't opened your mouth, you haven't presented a slide, you haven't even made eye contact. Yet, everyone in that room has already decided how much respect to give you. They are not judging your resume, they are not analyzing your logic, they are reading your biology. Human beings are social animals with millions of years of evolutionary programming designed to assess threats and hierarchy instantly. We do not trust sentences, we trust nervous systems. If your words say, "I am confident," but your shoulders are hunched, your eyes are darting, and your breath is shallow, the room will instinctively reject your message. They will smell the dissonance. This is where most people fail in their quest for authority. They memorize the scripts, they master the logic, but they inhabit a body that screams victim. They vibrate with a low-level anxiety that leaks out through fidgeting hands and a tight jaw. To achieve Stoic dominance, you must align your physical vessel with your mental intent. You need to master the calm body protocol. This is not about body language tricks like mirroring someone else's posture or power posing in a bathroom stall. It is about hardwiring authority into your physiology so that you present as relaxed, grounded, and inevitably slow. You are going to learn how to become the quietest person in the room and therefore the most credible. The biology of status. There is a concept in behavioral science called status quiescence. It observes that in almost every hierarchy, from primates to boardrooms, the individual with the highest status is the one who moves the least and reacts the slowest. Think about the dynamics of a heated meeting. The junior employees are often leaning forward, gesturing wildly, speaking fast, and trying to interject. They are vibrating with energy. They are desperate to be seen. Now look at the person with the real power. They are usually sitting back. Their breathing is invisible. Their movements are deliberate. They do not twitch when someone disagrees with them. Their low reactivity signals safety and certainty. This is not just for show. It is based on the principle of embodied cognition. The feedback loop between your brain and your body runs both ways. Yes, your thoughts affect your posture, but your posture also dictates your thoughts. If you sit in a collapsed protective position, your brain releases cortisol and prepares for a threat. If you sit in an open, vertical, relaxed position, your brain lowers the alarm bells and allows you to access your higher cognitive functions. By hacking your posture and breath, you are not just fooling the room, you are stabilizing your own mind. You are using the Stoic internal locus to govern the one thing you have absolute control over, your physical form. The myth of the loud leader. We are often taught that to command a room, we must fill it. We are told to project our voice, to be dynamic, to bring energy. This is a misunderstanding of power. Loudness is often a mask for insecurity. When someone raises their voice, they are usually signaling that they feel unheard or threatened. It is a defensive maneuver. True authority does not need to shout, it draws people in. When you speak with a low volume and a calm demeanor, you force others to quiet down to hear you. You change the acoustic environment of the room. Similarly, there is a myth that fast talk proves intelligence. We think that if we can rattle off facts at machine gun speed, we will overwhelm the opposition with our brilliance. In reality, fast speech signals anxiety. It suggests you are afraid of being interrupted, so you are rushing to get your words out before someone takes the floor from you. Slow talk signals certainty. It suggests that you believe your words are worth waiting for. It implies that you are comfortable with the silence between your sentences. The calm body protocol. So how do you operationalize this? You cannot just tell yourself to relax. You need a mechanical checklist to reset your system when the pressure mounts. We call this the 60-second reset. You can do this while sitting at a conference table, standing at a podium, or even on a video call. 1. Ground the feet. Start at the floor. Place both feet flat. Do not cross your legs. Do not wrap your ankles around the chair legs. When your feet are flat, you feel physically supported. It stops the restless tapping that betrays nervousness. 2. Vertical spine. Imagine a string pulling the crown of your head toward the ceiling. Lengthen the back of your neck. This is not about puffing out your chest like a soldier. It is about creating space in your vertebrae. A collapsed spine signals defeat. A rigid spine signals aggression. A tall spine signals alertness and dignity. Drop the shoulders. Most of us walk around with our shoulders creeping up toward our ears. This is the universal sign of the startle response. Consciously drop them. Let gravity take them down. When your shoulders drop, your voice naturally deepens because you are releasing tension around the vocal cords. Unclench the jaw. A tight jaw is the precursor to a fight. It locks your face into a grimace. Separate your back teeth. Relax the tongue away from the roof of the mouth. This softens your entire facial expression, making you look observant rather than combative. 5. The double exhale. Inhale through the nose for a count of 4. Exhale through the nose for a count of 8. Do this 3 times. As we discussed in emotional containment, this flips the switch from sympathetic, fight-flight, to parasympathetic, rest, digest. It physically forces your heart rate to sync with your demeanor. The sit-back rule. One of the most powerful nonverbal moves you can make in a conflict is to lean back. When someone challenges you, your instinct is to lean in. You want to enter their space, defend your turf, and engage. This is the fight response. It creates a confrontational energy that escalates the argument. Instead, when the heat rises, lean back about 10 degrees. If you are in a chair, use the backrest. If you are standing, shift your weight to your back foot. This movement sends a massive subconscious signal. It says, I am not threatened by you. I am evaluating you. It shifts the dynamic from 2 boxers in a ring to a judge observing a case. You are removing yourself from the immediate fray and taking the position of the observer. This dampens the urgency of the attack. It is very difficult to scream at someone who is casually leaning back and looking at you with mild interest. It makes the aggressor feel foolish, like they are overreacting. Gaze and gesture. Your eyes are the primary weapon of your presence. In a conflict, most people do one of 2 things. They stare aggressively, predatory, or they look away constantly, prey. You want the soft, steady gaze. You look at the person's eyes, but you do not drill into them. You keep your face relaxed. You blink normally. When you break eye contact, you do it slowly and horizontally, not by looking down. Looking down is a submission signal. What do you do with your hands? This is where fidgeting kills credibility. Clicking a pen, touching your face, adjusting your clothes, these are displacement activities. They are your body's way of burning off excess adrenaline. Replace fidgeting with purposeful stillness. Keep your hands visible. If you are sitting, rest them loosely on the table or your lap. If you are standing, let them hang by your sides or clasp them loosely at navel height. Stillness is loud. In a world of constant motion, the person who can sit perfectly still commands attention. It is unnatural, and therefore it is fascinating. The voice of authority. Your vocal tone is the final piece of the physiology puzzle. When we are stressed, our vocal cords tighten and our voice gets higher and thinner. We also tend to speak faster. To counteract this, you must consciously drop your pitch. You don't need to sound like a movie trailer announcer, but you should aim for the lower register of your natural range. You achieve this by breathing from the diaphragm, stomach, rather than the chest. Then cut your speed by 15%. Whatever speed feels normal to you in a high-stakes moment is likely too fast. Slow it down. Articulate the consonants. Use the period drop. At the end of a sentence, drop your pitch. We are going to wait. Pitch goes down. This sounds like a command. We are going to wait. Pitch goes up. This sounds like a question. Eliminate the upspeak that seeks validation. Make every statement land with a thud. Troubleshooting the calm. There are risks to this protocol. If you execute it without nuance, you can come across as cold, arrogant, or detached. If people perceive you as aloof, they will stop collaborating with you. The fix is not to become frantic, but to add a layer of warmth to your words. You can maintain a stoic body while using empathetic language, as discussed in the Frame Refusal chapter. A warm, I appreciate that perspective, delivered with a calm, still body, is incredibly powerful. Another risk is the freeze response. Sometimes, when we try to be still, we become rigid. We stop breathing. We look like a statue. This is unnerving. To fix this, use micro-movements. Take a slow sip of water. Make a small note on your paper. Shift your weight slightly. These small, controlled movements keep you fluid and prevent the deer-in-headlights look. Finally, beware of the monotone. Speaking slowly and low does not mean speaking without inflection. You should still emphasize key nouns and verbs. You can vary your pace, slowing down even more for the most important point, to keep the listener engaged. The mirror effect. The ultimate payout of the Calm Body Protocol is not just that you feel better or that you look better. It is that you change the room. Emotions are contagious. This is a biological fact known as limbic resonance. If you walk into a chaotic room and you are vibrating with stress, you add to the chaos. But if you walk in with a slow pulse, a deep voice, and a grounded spine, you act as a cooling rod in a nuclear reactor. People will subconsciously mimic your state. They will slow their breathing to match yours. They will lower their voices to match yours. You are de-escalating the conflict without saying a word. You become the thermostat. Everyone else is just a thermometer, reacting to the temperature. You set the temperature. By mastering your body, you have built the vessel for your authority. You have the mindset, the words, the timing, and the presence. You are now a formidable force. But there is one final trap. You can be calm, precise, and timely, but if you are too transparent, you are still vulnerable. If you lay out your entire plan, your entire strategy, and your entire roadmap, you give your opponents a blueprint to dismantle you. True dominance requires a veil. It requires the ability to be clear about where you are going, while remaining completely obscure about how you plan to get there. You need to learn how to be visible and invisible at the same time. In the next chapter, we will explore the art of the fog. We will learn why the most powerful leaders are the ones you can never quite figure out until it is too late. Chapter 7, Strategic Ambiguity. You have a plan. It is a good plan. You have spent weeks refining the details, calculating the risks, and mapping out the contingencies. You feel a surge of pride in your work, and naturally, you want to share it. You want to call a meeting, lay out the entire roadmap, explain every nuance of your strategy, and show your team and your stakeholders exactly how smart you are. Do not do it. The moment you reveal the full machinery of your plan, you have handed your adversaries a wrench. You have given them 1,000 different gears to jam. By explaining your method, you have invited them to critique your process rather than waiting for your result. You have traded your sovereignty for a dopamine hit of validation. We live in an era that fetishizes radical transparency. We are told that we should work in public, that we should open the kimono, and that secrets are the enemy of trust. In a high-trust, low-stakes environment, this might be true. But in the arena of conflict, negotiation, and power dynamics, total transparency is strategic suicide. You do not owe the world a live feed of your brain. You owe them clarity on where you are going, but you must reserve the right to keep the path shrouded in fog. This is the art of strategic ambiguity. It is the ability to be perfectly legible to your allies and completely opaque to your adversaries. It is the discipline of revealing the destination while concealing the route. The glass house trap. Why do we feel the need to over-disclose? It usually stems from a desire for safety. We think that if we just show everyone all our cards, they will see that we aren't bluffing. We think that if we explain every step of our logic, they will have no choice but to agree with our conclusion. This is a fallacy. Information is not just data, it is ammunition. When you provide a detailed timeline with 12 different milestones, you have just created 12 opportunities for someone to say you are failing. If you miss milestone 3 by an hour, your entire competence is called into question, even if the final deadline is still safe. When you explain the specific tactics you will use to achieve a goal, say, hiring a specific vendor or using a specific software, you invite a debate about those tactics. Suddenly, the meeting is no longer about the goal. It is about the vendor's pricing history or the software's user interface. You have allowed the conversation to descend from the strategic level, where you win, to the tactical level, where you get bogged down. Over-disclosure arms your critics. It gives them surface area to attack. It allows them to prepare countermoves. If they know exactly what you're going to do on Tuesday, they can have a roadblock waiting for you on Monday night. However, the opposite extreme is also dangerous. If you tell people nothing, you breed paranoia. If you are a black box that emits no signal, your allies cannot coordinate with you, and your stakeholders will assume you are doing nothing. Silence without direction looks like incompetence. The solution is not secrecy, it is calibration. You need to find the precise frequency where you are broadcasting enough signal to maintain momentum, but enough noise to prevent interference. Ends as means. The core principle of strategic ambiguity is simple. Be rigid on the ends, but flexible on the means. You must be crystal clear about the destination. We are launching the product on October 1st. We are cutting costs by 10%. We are signing the deal. This clarity is non-negotiable. It provides the leadership and the certainty that people crave. It answers the question, where are we going? But when they ask how, you must become vague. We are evaluating several pathways to hit that date. We are reviewing multiple line items for efficiency. We are finalizing the terms. By keeping the how ambiguous, you preserve what economists call option value. If you commit publicly to method A and method A fails, you have to publicly admit failure and pivot to method B. You look weak and indecisive. But if you commit only to the result and method A fails, you can quietly switch to method B without anyone knowing you ever stumbled. The outside world only sees that you delivered the result. You look like a magician. This is how you protect your agency. You force the world to judge you on your outcomes, which you can control, rather than your methods, which are subject to change. The destination checkpoint script. To execute this in the wild, you need a script that satisfies curiosity without giving away the store. We call this the destination checkpoint script. It works like this. You state the goal, and then you state the next time you will talk about it. You skip everything in between. Imagine a stakeholder asks for a detailed update on a sensitive project. The old you would send a 3-page email detailing every meeting, every hurdle, and every plan. The new you says, we are tracking toward the Q3 launch destination. We are currently in the testing phase. I will provide the next go-no-go update on Friday at noon. Notice what is missing. You didn't say who is doing the testing. You didn't say which tests are passing or failing. You didn't mention the software bug you found yesterday. You simply defined the goal and the next window of transparency. This creates a quiet period in which you can work. If a crisis happens between now and Friday, you have time to fix it before anyone knows it existed. You are buying yourself the space to be messy in private so you can be perfect in public. The need-to-know filter. You must learn to keep 2 sets of books. This is not about dishonesty. It is about compartmentalization. There is the public note. This is what goes to the wider team, the cross-functional partners, and the casual observers. It contains the ends, the timeline, and the high-level risks. It is sanitized. It is designed to inform without alarming. Then there is the private note. This is for you and your inner circle of executioners. This contains the tactics, the specific names of people who are blocking you, the contingency plans, and the ugly details of the sausage making. The mistake most people make is merging these 2 worlds. They CC the entire department on an email chain where they are debating a sensitive technical trade-off. They let the audience see the rehearsal. You must aggressively limit the leakage of detail. Limit your CCs. Stop replying all to show you are working. Use placeholders in your public documents. Instead of writing, we are firing vendor X, write, we are assessing vendor performance. It conveys the necessary truth that a change might happen without triggering a legal or interpersonal explosion before you are ready. Deflecting the Inquisition. When you start practicing this, people will push. They will ask probing questions. But exactly how are you going to handle the integration? Who specifically is working on that module? They are fishing for a hook. Do not bite. Use the micro-yes deflection. This combines the validation we learned in frame refusal with the ambiguity we are practicing here. That is a critical question, micro-yes. We are currently stress testing 3 different options to ensure we pick the right one. We will lock down the specific method at the next checkpoint, deflection. You have validated their intelligence. You have assured them that work is being done, but you have told them absolutely nothing about what you are actually doing. You have kicked the can down the road to a time of your choosing. Another powerful tool is the artifact over argument rule. When people demand details, they usually want to argue. Instead of giving them words to debate, give them an artifact to look at. Show them a high-level dashboard. Show them a Gantt chart with broad blocks of time. Show them a finished prototype. Artifacts shut down conversation. It is hard to argue with a chart that shows "on track" in green. It is very easy to argue with a paragraph of text explaining why you are on track. The trust paradox. You might worry that this approach will make people distrust you. You might fear being labeled secretive or political. The paradox is that structured ambiguity actually breeds trust, while chaotic transparency breeds anxiety. Think about a pilot flying a plane through turbulence. You do not want the pilot to come on the intercom and say, "Folks, I'm trying to decide if I should bank left or right. The wind shear is really nasty, and I'm worried about the fuel levels." That is transparency. It is also terrifying. You want the pilot to say, "We have some rough air. I'm taking us to a smoother altitude. We will be landing in Chicago on time." That is strategic ambiguity. You don't know how he is doing it, and you don't care. You trust him because he sounds certain about the destination. When you protect your team from the daily fluctuations of your strategy, you are not hiding, you are leading. You are absorbing the entropy so they don't have to. You are creating a stable environment where work can happen. If someone accuses you of being secretive, you reframe it immediately. "I am not being secretive. I am being focused. I want to share the plan when it is bulletproof, not while it is still wet cement. I am saving you from the noise." The fog of war. As you master this, you will notice a distinct advantage in your conflicts. Your opponents will struggle to land a punch because they cannot see the target. They cannot sabotage your plan because they don't know the mechanics of it until it is already executed. By the time you announce the specific method, the result should be inevitable. You are presenting a fait accompli. You will see fewer mid-course derailments. Projects that used to die by death by committee will survive because the committee never got a chance to vote on the tactics, only on the results. You will become a moving target, legible enough to be followed, but blurry enough to be safe. However, there is a final reality we must face. You can control your body, you can control your words, you can control the clock, you can control the flow of information. But sometimes, the game is simply rigged. Sometimes, no matter how dominant your stoicism is, the other person is determined to drag you into a swamp of toxicity. Sometimes, the argument is a circle that has no end. In those moments, the most powerful move is not to win the point. It is not to reframe the debate. It is not to delay the response. The most powerful move is to vanish. You need to know how to kill a conversation instantly without looking like you are running away. You need a set of maneuvers that allow you to step off the board entirely, leaving the other person playing a game with themselves. In the next chapter, we are going to learn the art of the clean break. We are going to discuss the exit moves that ensure you never stay in a losing room 1 second longer than necessary. Chapter 8. Exit moves. You know the feeling. You are trapped in a conversation that died 20 minutes ago. The main point was settled, the decision was made, but the talking continues. It has become a zombie argument, a mindless, shuffling creature that eats your brains and refuses to stay down. You are nodding politely. You are checking your watch. You are desperately looking for a break in the sentence so you can escape. But the other person keeps looping. They are restating their objection for the 5th time, just phrased slightly differently. They are asking what-if questions about scenarios that have a near-zero probability of happening. In this moment, you have a choice. You can continue to engage, offering weak rebuttals and hoping they eventually run out of oxygen. Or you can execute an exit move. Most people choose the first option. They stay in the room. They stay on the call. They keep replying to the email thread. They do this because they believe a dangerous myth. They think that walking away is an act of weakness. They believe that the person who leaves the arena first is the loser, and the person who stays until the bitter end is the winner. This is the sunk cost fallacy of social interaction. The truth is the exact opposite. The person who leaves first is the one who has better things to do. The person who stays is the one who has nothing but the argument. To achieve Stoic dominance, you must master the art of the clean break. You need to learn how to kill a non-productive interaction instantly, without being rude, without burning bridges, and without looking like you are fleeing. You need to learn how to look at a conversation, realize it has become a liability, and close the trade. The sovereignty of the exit. Why is it so hard to leave? It is because we confuse answering with leading. We think that if a question is asked, we are morally obligated to answer it. If an objection is raised, we are obligated to address it. We hand over our agency to the interrogator. But you are not a witness on a stand. You are the architect of your own attention economy. Every minute you spend in a circular debate is a minute you are stealing from your actual work, your strategic thinking, or your peace of mind. The concept here is exit over voice. In political and economic theory, when you are dissatisfied with a situation, you have two main options: voice, complain, argue, try to change it from within, or exit, leave, switch products, quit. In the context of interpersonal conflict, voice is expensive. It costs energy, emotion, and time. Exit is cheap. It costs nothing but the courage to walk away. When you realize that you cannot change the other person's mind, or that the decision has already been made, voice becomes a waste. Exit becomes the only rational move. This is not about storming out of the room. That is a tantrum. A tantrum is high-status leakage. It shows you are rattled. A true exit move is cool, calculated, and final. It signals that the transaction is complete. The three closers. How do you actually do this? How do you stop the zombie from eating your brain without looking like a jerk? You need a toolkit of specific closing maneuvers. We categorize these into three types: time, scope, and decision. The time close is the most neutral and unarguable exit. You are not leaving because you are angry. You are leaving because the clock demands it. You are outsourcing the no to the universe. I'm off this thread now to focus on the launch. I'll review the status on Friday at 10 Juan. Notice the structure. You state the exit, I'm off, the reason, a higher priority, and the next checkpoint, Friday. There is no room for negotiation. You didn't say, is it okay if I go? You informed them of your departure. The scope close is used when the argument tries to expand beyond the original boundaries. This happens constantly. You are discussing a specific budget item, and suddenly the other person brings up a grievance from 3 years ago or questions the entire strategy of the department. You must cut this off immediately. That is out of scope for this sprint. We can revisit that topic after the launch. You're not saying their point is invalid. You are saying it is misplaced. You are acting as the referee who blows the whistle when the ball goes out of bounds. By defining the scope, you define the exit. The decision close is the ultimate silencer. This is for when the debate continues after the verdict has been rendered. This is the most common form of time theft in organizations, the post-decision litigation. The decision has been made, we are implementing it now. It is blunt, it is final. It reminds everyone that the time for democracy is over and the time for execution has begun. The two-sentence bridge. The danger with these moves is that they can feel abrupt. If you just say decision made and walk away, you might bruise egos. You want to be dominant, not destructive. You want to stop the fight, not start a feud. To solve this, we use the two-sentence bridge. This technique allows you to validate the person before you shut down the topic. It combines the micro yes we learned earlier with a hard boundary. Sentence 1 is the respect line. It acknowledges their intent. Sentence 2 is the boundary line. It dictates the exit. I get why this detail matters to you, and we are moving ahead with the current plan, boundary. I appreciate the passion you have for this. However, the decision stands and we need to execute, boundary. The word and is critical here. Do not use but. But negates the respect. And allows the respect to exist side by side with the refusal. You are saying, I see you and I am leaving. This bridge preserves the relationship. It tells the other person, you are not crazy, you are just overruled. It allows them to save face while you save time. The offer and alt maneuver. Sometimes, the other person simply has too much energy to be shut down completely. If you block them, they will explode. In these cases, you don't want to build a wall, you want to dig a channel. You want to redirect their energy somewhere else, specifically somewhere that doesn't involve you. This is the offer and alt move. You replace the live debate with an asynchronous task. I hear you have a lot of thoughts on this. Please add them as comments to the document by 5 p.m. If you want to propose a change, write up a one-page brief and send it over for review next week. This is a brilliant tactical move. First, it ends the immediate conversation. You have given them a place to go. Second, it imposes a work tax on their objection. It is very easy to argue in a meeting. It is much harder to write a coherent one-page brief. Often, you will find that the person never writes the brief. They just wanted to hear themselves talk. By asking them to do the work, you filter out the noise. If they do write the brief, then they actually had a valid point, and now you can review it on your own time without the emotional heat of a live confrontation. The passive-aggressive reopen. You will execute these moves, and you will feel a sense of relief. You will hang up the phone, you will close the laptop. And then 10 minutes later, you will hear a ping. It is them. They have replied to the thread you just exited. They have added just one more thought. They have looped in your boss. They are trying to reopen the case. This is the test. If you reply to this message, you undo everything. If you engage with the one more thought, you have taught them that your exit was fake. You have taught them that if they just poke you one more time, you will come back. You must hold the line. If they reply to a closed thread, do not reply back. Let it sit. Your silence is the reinforcement of the boundary. If they try to escalate or claim you are ignoring them, you simply point to the log. As noted, the decision is made. We will review results at the next checkpoint. Do not relitigate. Do not defend your exit. Point to the scoreboard and keep walking. The warmth of the end. There is a misconception that exits kill relationships. We fear that if we end a meeting early, people will feel slighted. In reality, people are exhausted. Everyone is drowning in meetings. Everyone is tired of circular arguments. When you are the person who stands up and says, I think we have everything we need, let's give everyone 10 minutes back, you are not the villain. You are the hero. You are the one who respects their time enough to stop wasting it. You can wrap your exit in warmth. You can smile. You can say thank you. You can be incredibly pleasant while you are closing the door. Thanks everyone for the robust discussion. We have our marching orders. Let's get to work. This is the warmth-boundary combination. It beats drama every time. It leaves people feeling energized rather than drained. Reclaiming your life. When you start using exit moves consistently, the math of your life changes. Let's say you currently spend 5 hours a week in unproductive circular discussions. That is 20 hours a month. That is 6 weeks of work time a year. By learning to say decision made and I'm off this thread, you reclaim those 6 weeks. You reclaim your sanity. You stop carrying the emotional residue of arguments home to your family. You begin to be known as a person of high velocity. People know that when they talk to you, it will be efficient. They know that if they want to argue, they better bring their A game, because you will not stick around for a B game debate. You stop being a resource that others can mine for drama. You become a fortress that opens its gates only for productive commerce. But there is a question that arises once you have cleared the field. You have silenced the noise. You have refused the frame. You have exited the argument. The room is quiet. The email thread is dead. All eyes are on you. You have created a vacuum of authority. You have stopped the talk. Now you have to replace it with something else. If you stop arguing, what do you do instead? How do you prove you are right if you refuse to debate it? How do you lead if you aren't explaining? The answer lies in shifting your entire operating system from the world of words to the world of physics. It is time to stop convincing people and start demonstrating reality to them. It is time for the final shift. Chapter 9, Deeds First. You have cleared the room. You have silenced the noise. You have refused the bait, controlled the clock, and exited the loop. The air is quiet. Now comes the most terrifying part of the entire process. When you strip away the arguments, the debates, the explanations, and the justifications, you are left with a stark, undeniable reality. You are left with what you have actually done. For many people, arguing is a hiding place. It is a way to simulate progress without actually moving. As long as we are debating the strategy, we don't have to execute it. As long as we are defending our intentions, we don't have to face our results. Words are a fog that we use to obscure the gap between who we say we are and who we are being. But you are done with the fog. You have spent the last 8 chapters dismantling the mechanisms of distraction. You have reclaimed your attention. Now, you must invest it. This final phase is not about dominance over others. It is about dominance over reality. It is the shift from the world of words to the world of physics. It is the philosophy of deeds first. The builder versus the debater. There are 2 types of people in every high-stakes environment. There are the debaters and there are the builders. The debater believes that reality is negotiated. They think that if they can just construct the perfect verbal argument, they can bend the world to their will. They measure their success by how many points they score in a meeting, how many emails they win, and how well they defended their ego. The builder believes that reality is manufactured. They know that the world does not care about your logic. It cares about your output. They measure their success by what exists today that did not exist yesterday. When you stop arguing, you inevitably become a builder. You have no other choice because you have removed the verbal crutch. If you refuse to explain why you are competent, you are forced to demonstrate it. If you refuse to debate your strategy, you are forced to prove it works. This is a higher standard. It is heavier. It requires a level of courage that a clever retort never will. But it is also the source of durable influence. Arguments fade. Rhetoric is forgotten. But a result, a shipped product, a signed contract, a solved problem, stands as a monument that no amount of talking can dismantle. The quiet operating system. Let's look at the machine you have constructed. This is not a collection of random tips. It is a cohesive operating system for your life. It begins internally. You learn to contain the chemical surge of emotion, using your breath and your mind to label the adrenaline before it hijacked your tongue. You learn to govern your physical vessel with the calm body protocol, signaling safety and status through a slowed pulse and a steady gaze. Then you move to the boundary. You learned frame refusal, the art of declining the emotional premises of others and substituting your own definition of the game. You learn to protect that frame with minimal speech, stripping your language of the weak modifiers and over-explanations that serve as handles for your enemies. You mastered the 4th dimension, time. You learned to use the pause, the delay, and the window to force the world to wait for your command. You learned to cloak your methods in strategic ambiguity, keeping your ends clear but your means guarded. And finally, you learned to leave. You mastered the exit move, the ability to cut the cord on dead conversations and preserve your sovereignty. When you run this system, you are no longer a reactive participant in someone else's drama. You are the director of the scene. You are unbaitable. And because you are unbaitable, you are unbeatable. Indifference armor. To live this way requires a specific kind of psychological armor. We call it indifference armor. This does not mean you don't care about your work or your people. It means you are indifferent to the immediate, shallow feedback loop of public approval. The debater craves validation. They argue because they need the other person to say, "You are right." They need that external stamp of approval to feel secure. The builder, operating with deeds first, bypasses this need. You derive your security from the integrity of your action. You know that you did the work. You know that the decision was sound. You do not need the applause of the gallery to confirm it. This aligns with the Stoic practice of Marcus Aurelius. He wrote extensively about the foolishness of tying your happiness to the souls of others. He focused entirely on his own reasoned choice and his own social duty. If he acted according to nature and reason, the opinions of his critics were irrelevant noise. When you wear this armor, you become dangerous in the best possible way. You cannot be manipulated by praise or shame. You can walk into a hostile room, deliver a hard truth, and walk out without your pulse rising, because your self-worth was never on the table to begin with. The safety of the rock. There is a profound paradox in this transformation. You might fear that by becoming less talkative, less explanatory, and more decisive, you will alienate the people around you. You might worry that you will seem cold or distant. The reality is usually the opposite. By stopping the arguments, you improve your relationships. Think about the people who exhaust you. They are the ones who are defensive, who need to parse every word, who turn every minor disagreement into a trial. They are volatile. You have to walk on eggshells around them because you never know what will trigger a debate. Now think about the people you trust the most. They are usually steady, they are consistent, they don't react to every gust of wind. When you adopt the deeds-first approach, you become that steady force. Your team stops fearing your reaction and starts trusting your direction. They know that you will not waste their time with drama. They know that if you say yes, you mean it, and if you say no, it is final. You become safe. In a chaotic world, being a rock is the ultimate act of kindness. You provide a stable surface on which others can build. The compound interest of reputation. The benefits of this system are not just immediate, they are exponential. The first time you refuse to argue and instead deliver a result, people will be surprised. The 10th time, they will be respectful. The 100th time, it will become your legend. Reputation is simply a set of expectations that others hold about you. If your reputation is the person who gets things done without the noise, your life gets infinitely easier. Barriers start to fall before you even reach them. People stop bringing you petty grievances because they know you won't engage. Stakeholders stop demanding detailed explanations because they have learned that your results speak for themselves. You gain the benefit of the doubt. This is the compound interest of character. The energy you used to waste on friction is now available for propulsion. You can make larger moves with less effort. You can take bigger risks because you have the capital to cover them. The first brick. So where do you begin? You do not need to wait for a crisis. You do not need a promotion or a new job. You can start this afternoon. Pick one arena. Maybe it is that email thread that has been festering for 3 days. Maybe it is the weekly status meeting where everyone talks in circles. Maybe it is a text chain with a family member who loves to push your buttons. Decide right now that you will not engage in the old way. When the notification comes in, run the containment loop. Feel the hit, breathe the air, label the feeling. Do not type. Then, look at the situation and ask, what is the deed that solves this? Not the word, the deed. If it is an email, do not write a paragraph. Write a decision. We are going with option A, launching Tuesday. If it is a meeting, do not offer a counter-argument. Offer a prototype. I built a mock-up of the solution. Let's look at it. If it is a personal conflict, do not defend your character. Show your character. End the fight, go do the dishes, or simply give a hug and walk away. Make the move. Log the win. Feel the difference in your chest when you choose action over assertion. The final truth. We have spent this book talking about how to dominate your environment, how to win back your time, and how to command respect. But there is a deeper truth that I have saved for the end. The reason you should never argue is not just because it is tactical suicide. It is not just because it wastes time or lowers your status. You should never argue because your life is too short to be spent in the court of public opinion. Every moment you spend trying to convince someone else of your value is a moment you are not creating value. Every ounce of energy you pour into winning a debate is energy you are stealing from your own potential. You were not made to be a defendant. You were made to be a creator. The world is noisy. It is filled with people who are desperate to be heard, who are screaming into the void, hoping for an echo. Let them scream. Let them debate. Let them write the long emails and fight the Twitter wars. You have a different path. You are the quiet force. You are the one who watches, who waits, and who strikes with precision. You are the one who defines the frame. You are the one who does not ask for permission to exist. Walk out of the room. Close the laptop. Go do the work. Let your deeds be your voice. They will sing louder than you ever could.